here's the first philosophy that I have, because we're about to start making some transitions into some story and things like that. Okay, so you notice the first two slides, we've got words on them, okay? Right, we're going to work on words and things like that to make them better, of course. But like when I'm teaching, I use words on my slides. When I'm preaching, I don't. And preaching is storytelling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we get into the story, we're going to try to take words off. Okay, we want it to be background setting, but for this, we want it to words because we want them to see what's going on. All right, now we got style. Okay, so we're going to build rapport. I consider this a story slide. All right, make yourself comfortable. Your style, conservational, micro story. What is the most controversial or conversational moment you close the deal? Went and got my teeth cleaned and talking to my hygienist, had a side business to sell. Okay, so what's the picture that you? So what's the hygienist story picture? Permission for style.
I feel like now I'm really struggling with these photos, the way that, and I did this a couple weeks ago, so I feel like
Your brain that you've had so much like fill your RAM since then.
Yes, I'm like, why am I not seeing what the picture was?
Let's see. I'm looking through here. Something changes. All right, here's speaker permission. We'll use that in a minute. Style permission. You got the thing.
I don't remember doing one with the teeth cleaning though, but I feel like I just need a picture of like a hygienist or like somebody in a chair, right?
Okay, I'll look one up. Hygienist.
Or like teeth cleaning, right? Like, but is that a weird picture?
This one looks good because this one's like, this one looks like someone's telling them something very like, the dental hygienist in this one looks very happy. Something like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like making the sale kind of deal. We're just getting a little thing. All right, so here you would come in and you would say, you know, you would say, I always make, sometimes when pictures don't fit, I just make the background black because I don't want to make it fit. But it's like, guys, now let me tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm very conversational. I will talk to anybody, especially when I'm trying to sell something, right? There was this one time when I was at a dental hygienist and I was getting my teeth cleaned. I was talking to my hygienist and she was giving me buying signals. Okay. So I tell the story basically, right? So it's a little off, like, why is there a dental hygienist on this picture? That's what people are going to think immediately,
Yeah.
And then you're just telling the story. You just jump straight into that story. Okay. And you're like, so I've got this. I'm super conversational today, blah, 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 blah. Now, your insecurities. Address how simple. I study NLP. Comment on the obvious. What is it? What was this?
That's the, like, NLP is described as a comment on the obvious that isn't obvious until it's commented on. So a lot of times when I teach things, people are like, yeah, duh. But if you don't do it, it doesn't matter. And so I teach things that oftentimes once you learn them, you're like, yes, I can do that. That's simple. Perfect. And my insecurity around it is that I think sometimes I feel like, are people going to laugh me out of the room because the things that I teach are simple?
All right. So what we're going to do, so like we'll do something like for right now, we'll throw in something from the office just as a placeholder. So I love how you just said, yeah, duh. Like, let's use that, right? Like, let's make that part of it. Okay. All right. So it's like, yeah. So this is just your insecurity slide. So now this is the first time we've done this. If you'll notice, this all came under this category, right? But we just made it 2 slides. You can unpack this once we get the core outline down. Don't be afraid to like unpack it. You know what I mean?
Meaning what?
Like this section, like permission for style, can be multiple slides, right? Like it doesn't have to just be like, oh, well, we said this was a section, so it's a slide. Like you can unpack these into multiple slides. You can turn the dental hygienist story into 3 different slides as you're going through the telling of it. So, but we'll unpack it later. We've got to get the outline down first. All right. So we're just pasting these in for your notes right here. All right. And this would be what you would put in your presenter notes as well. That's what I'm putting in the copy down here. So cool. All right. So now we've got the permissions. Now the speaker. This is the humble brag slide. Boom. I wish it would just like make a new slide with nothing on it. I hate how it like does the little, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that stuff drives me crazy too.
All the platforms do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know why they do that. I'm so mad. It's like, this is the way you should make a slide deck, according to us. All right, now this one, you've got these in here. I see, where's that one where you were on that stage?
Speaker 2, we're on stage.
Yeah, that's an awesome picture. Whose event's that?
That's Biz Chicks, that's nuts. That was year 2. That was my big, like being able to talk about the fact that I met Natalie at her event. I mean, we had met once before, and then I got to be on her stage the next year.
I like to list my credentials on this slide, like all the stuff that you said, you know?
Yeah.
Because I just think that they need to see, you know what I'm saying? Like what's going on. What I would do probably is make it better, of course. I'm just throwing down an outline here. Like just a nice short outlined version of what you're saying, because we want them to know you better pay attention to me. Look at this. She's on stage. She's talking to a bunch of people. She's got all this credentials. Like, this is like, okay, cool. I'm normal. I'm human, blah, blah, blah. I've already sold something to a dental hygienist. Bam, boom. And now it's like, I'm the speaker. I'm in charge. Look at me. I am your captain now. You know, kind of deal. Like, this is like, if you listen to anyone else, you're absolutely madness. Absolutely crazy. The next step is permission for the sale. Just going to get that out of the way. So there's a couple ways to do this. Did you have a slide for this one or a picture that you had?
I do. It's in there. It's called permission to pitch, but it's really just like a badge. So I don't know if that's what you had in mind. Again, when I'm looking at these pictures, I'm like, oh man, I don't know what Shane wants here.
It's not about what I want. It's about what you want. I have ideas. But we'll figure
I know,
it out.
but I want to hear your ideas.
Right. I got you. But when I see yours, it helps. You know,
okay.
All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to make this personal. Now, do you have a picture of the inside of your membership? Like a course area or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a picture of that?
I mean, I can go grab one.
Yeah, so you can do a screen grab real quick of inside your member area. If a member logged in, what's the first thing they see? Just do a quick screen grab of that. All we're doing here is a slide where we're just saying, hey, I can't, teach you everything during this training, but you can work with me too. You know what I'm saying? I know there's like coaching and stuff like that. Like, if you just need something that's like, this is for the membership or whatever, right? But people get access to it if they buy the thing or whatever. But you just got kind of like a product, kind of like, okay, the Flip Lifestyle Blueprint, the Flip Lifestyle Community, the Flip Lifestyle One-on-One Coaching. I sell all these things. And I'm just saying, I'm going to tell you all about those later. So I'm going to get you started. We're going to take you to a certain point, and then this is how you get more support after we're done. All right. So we're just letting you know you've got something for sale, right? Now, there's a tactic you can use here. Some people do this, especially for high ticket stuff. I've done it before. It's pretty awesome. It can go both ways. You can actually use this it's called a prize slide. Pedro Adeo does this. He's an online marketer guy. So like what you do is you can actually pitch right here. I've done this before, like where you're like, hey, I've got this thing. It's going to be this. It's going to be this. It's valued at $3,000, and I'm going to give one away in 45 minutes. And you give the first person away. You don't have to do that. I'm not saying do that. It's just a tactic you can try in the future. So you can get permission for the sale. I sell something, but you got to be a little more general when you're doing that. You don't want to go into like features, benefits, and price, right? You're not saying the price yet. But if you want it, you can reveal the price on slide 5 or 6. If you like, this is good. Hey, this is a $3,000 thing. I'm going to give one away. But then you got to give one away. So you might not want to do that. It works really good with high ticket courses because you don't lose anything, but you're giving away time, so you might not want to do that. So just list benefits. You can see here, I did not give one away at this last webinar for this $3,000 product. I just told what was inside of it, and I'm going to sell you something later. Right?
Okay, so really the picture should be of like the elite,
Yeah.
the sales accelerator, which is the VIP offer that you and I worked out. Okay, so I do have a picture of that, like
Cool.
like sales page.
Yes, it should be that. That's what it should be. It should be the
Okay,
thing you're selling, basically.
okay,
Right?
okay.
Yeah. But we can just leave this as a placeholder for right now. You know?
Yeah.
This is definitely not the final draft. You'll probably open this and PowerPoint side by side and start bouncing around,
Totally.
you know?
Totally.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so now that we've got our permissions, let's make sure we're keeping up with anything. This is how I make all my presentations too. Like I do it in this exact order every time. All right, we have our testimonial bridge 1.
What do you mean you do it in this exact order? Do you just mean like your format stays the same, or what do you mean by that when you said that?
I would never make a presentation for stage without going through this exact process. Like outline it, copy paste it into the speaker notes. Like this is exactly how I do everything. Like I'm doing a presentation in Vegas in 2 weeks, and like even though I've already done the presentation before for this company on a webinar, I'm gonna like literally start from a blank Google Doc like we did, and I'm gonna go through my framework, get all this stuff out of how I want to present this presentation. Then I build the first draft of the slide deck, and then that one's got to be in Keynote. So then I'll come out of into Keynote. Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because once you get this order done, you're going to find what's amazing. Once we get this in order, like you'll be able to like go back through it and flesh it out more. Like you'll add a couple slides here, delete one there, and like it just all just flows so seamlessly. But I think people make the biggest mistake of making a PowerPoint is starting in PowerPoint. Like you need to outline it and like think it through and like you need to do your speaker notes first, basically, and people do it the other way. And I just think it's so ass backwards to do it that way because like you can't keep up with it, you know? Like,
Yeah, I think what I usually do is, but this is because I love a workbook. So usually what I'll do is I'll create the outline, then I'll create the workbook, and then from the workbook I create the presentation because
workbook. Oh, you mean for the people in the audience?
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I've never done that before. I've only made one workbook.
I'm not going to do so. I love to create workbooks, but that's back from my NLP background. That it's for the kinesthetic learners in the room.
Yeah.
So
I need to do that actually. Hold on. I need a workbook for StoryPitch. I'm sorry you did not have a workbook.
Gosh, if you did this, you could charge more. So this is an example of this is what's known as the master workbook for master. And I print them and I send them to people in the mail, and they think it's the best thing ever.
We used to do workbooks like Jocelyn used to do it for elementary librarians. She would send printed copies of the lesson plans, and people freaked out. They loved the book more than the online library where everything was. You know,
when I get on coaching calls with clients, they either show me like they have a shelf in their office that's all like Nikki workbooks. That's
hilarious. It's amazing. All right, so testimonial slide. Which one is this?
So it's just a picture of my client.
Testimonial bridge. I like words because we're teaching them. Like this is not necessarily a story. You know what I'm saying? Like you're wanting them to know the good things about this person. So this is her name. I like to have a quote, and then I talk about the big result, like whatever it is.
Okay, so this is her full testimonial. I just typed it in there.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you can just shorten it into something like digestible to the audience, you know? Right. So that's it. Now remember, testimonial bridge 1 is someone who's achievable, right? That's the point of this slide is basically if this person did it, anybody can do it, right? Like that's the kind of the point of this one. It's not to blow them away. I think that's a huge mistake people make is like, this is Jason Brown, one of my members who made $1 million. What? Wait, what? I haven't even got an idea yet for an online business.
Yeah.
You freak them out, man. Like when you do that, I actually went to one seminar one time and I talked about Brooke Castillo because she'd had that $35 million business. And I was like, and people just tuned me out. I could tell that I lost the audience very early because it was just like, well, what? I can't even spell 35 million, like let alone make it. Yeah. So like that's what this is for, is like the ending result of this is if she did it, anybody can do it, right? This is not someone special or really good with sales or really charismatic. It's just she got her done. All right, cool. So now we're already starting to see a little bit of a story being told here, right? Any woman can do this. Everybody can see and hear me. Dental hygienist store. I can even sell to someone in a dental hygienist chair. So don't you think in a one-on-one sales call, you're going to be able to do this, right? And like, what's crazy is I'm going to teach you this in such a way that like, you're going to be like, well, do I already know this? Like, that seems so simple. Well, yeah, duh. Like, this is simple, but I just blah, 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 like, but the reason it's yeah, duh is because I'm teaching it. Look at me. I'm in charge here. Nikki Roush. Okay. Right. And then, now I can't tell you everything I know. So I'm going to sell you a product, and this this kind of product works great for my clients. So we're still like her. Easy, achievable. Bam. I find a lot of people are kind of sold in the permissions. Like, really, like I have people literally ask me like, well, where do we get that thing that she did? That's cool. I'm going to tell you about it in a minute. Like I've had people ask in the chat at this point, because it's like, look what we've already done. Establish your credibility. You sold something to a dental hygienist in a chair, and you taught someone else how to do it. Well, wait a minute. Well, okay, hold on. Let's just jump to the gun. I want the end game right now. I want the result. So sales process has begun. All right, cool. Now we go into the story. This is where we change a little bit. The story is definitely like, words go away. I actually like to do something here. It's not, I can put a slide in that kind of says it actually, is switch to cam. You don't need the slide to say this, right? A lot of times what I do, I think is helpful on a webinar, even though they have the picture in picture or, up in the corner. I like to start my story with me on camera. So there is a switching, like unshare your screen here. Right now, you got to get good at this, because you got to be able to switch back and forth without saying, well, let me stop here and share my screen again in a second. You're just going to do it while you're talking. But I really want my face to pop back up right here on the webinar presentation, because they're going to get distracted. And so I'll say like, hey, let me come back on camera. Look at me real quick. Right. Something like that. And I'll turn the screen share off, and I'll be like, but I wasn't always into sales, blah, 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 blah. Back in, I went to college at the University of Kentucky, because that's kind of what you're saying here is I went to college after college, right? The prologue to the Once Upon a Time, I do on camera, because I want them to kind of connect with me again, full face, right?
Yeah.
And then before I switch the slide back, there's presentation to this. Before I go to the next slide, right? So remember, I'm just putting switch to cam here. That's not a real slide.
Got it.
Yep. But it's like, bam, now I can come back. Now, so I would probably really quickly say, I'd come on camera and say, when I got out of high school, I really wanted to go to college at this college, blah, blah, blah. And like kind of tell a little anecdote there. It's only for like a minute, like 30 seconds to a minute that you're coming on camera, but it's a pattern interrupt of I'm on camera now, I'm moving, bam, now it comes back. So like there's just a little pattern interrupt there to kind of bring you back to I'm a real person. I'm not just a talking head behind the slide deck. Okay. And then after college, I got sucked into the corporate world, right? So now we need a slide to represent that. So what's your Once Upon a Time slide? I think I saw it a second ago.
It's just like, where they're like throwing their hats in the air of like college graduation.
Ooh, I think you need to go more dark. Because it says, after college, I got sucked into the corporate world, right? And like, I thought that was my only, it's not, this is kind of like not celebratory a little bit. It kind of is, kind of isn't. You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's see.
So like a picture of like drone workers.
Something like that. Or maybe like, I think we need to start with the classified part. Friend got hired, another friend. Oh, well, this was the two dorks that got hired, right?
Yeah, where I was like, if they'll hire them, they'll hire me.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's see. I got an idea. We need something. Yeah, this is perfect. Let's just something like this. Isn't that amazing? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so it's like I went straight into the corporate world, but I realized something. No, I wanted to get a job, and I realized these two dudes got hired, and they'd hire those knuckleheads. They'd hire me, right? Because we're setting up this man versus woman, man woman versus world dynamic. We're not. The point is not to do that. And every woman has been in that exact situation where the man got hired over them, right? So you got this classic image here of like that, So that's a perfect kind of image for this to convey what we want to convey. As I was out of college, got sucked into the corporate world, and I watched right out of college these two idiots get hired. I thought, well, they'd hire them, they would hire me, right? Right. So then basically, you're going to get the job right here, right? So this probably is a 2-slide thing. So I'm going to duplicate this, because you need to show that you got hired. You know what I'm saying? So like something like this. This is a little grainy. You might have to find a better version of this. All right. Okay. And of course, put some flair around it, make it better. But so it's like these knuckleheads got the job. I got the job. Same slide, right? And now you've got it. Okay. And now you're just working forward, moving in your career. Okay. So that's cool. Now we've got something changes. Bad emotions. We're going to bring this over. That's why I love making slides, when you can make like jokes and, you know what I'm saying, make people laugh. You just generate so much emotion. All right, so something changes. 17 years later. Was this where you were at the trade show?
Yep. Yeah, and I
All right.
was like, I do not want to be standing here talking to these people in 10 years. Which
All right, so
actually this year marks what would have been the 10 years, kind of.
heck yeah. So you got a decade out. Let's see, we need a trade show picture. What was your idea for this picture?
I actually just had this like person like leaning over, like looking, it's kind of like a water painting, and she just looks like sad.
So I think what we need to do is a double picture here is we need a classic kind of image of what a trade show looks like, because a lot of these ladies have probably been to trade shows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we could throw in a picture of the trade show here. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to, and then because we need to bring them into the setting, and then
yeah, we need like a woman who looks dejected.
I'll grab this one just for a placeholder.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like it's like you can see the person standing in front of the trade show kind of deal. Yeah, that's great. So there. Boom, I was selling technology, absolute expert. Selling, I did over 100 trade shows. Found myself on Saturday morning, another trade show. I looked around all the booths. There's the booths. And I realized I know all these people, and they all look lonely and miserable. And I don't want to be standing. And so I like her this one because it's more like you're thinking about it, not miserable, right? Like you stopped, you closed your eyes. Like if someone thought, it's like it's kind of sad, but it's like also like, I don't want to be here. You know what I mean? And like it has an air of like doing something about it instead of just depression,
Yeah. Okay, so on this, do you foresee me like popping up the trade show picture and then bringing this picture in, or are you just showing this as one slide?
One slide. I'll make it 2 slides if it is. I think some thoughts are better presented on one slide, and some are better broken up. Like if it's a revealing thing, it's more like use more than one slide. Like I'm revealing new parts of the story. This is not really, this is part of the same setting. So it's like I was at a trade show. I've done 100 trade shows. I was standing in the trade show. I was looking around the trade show. We need to keep the trade show front and center, right? Because that's what and who's been there? Who's ever been to a trade show? Who's ever worked a trade show? This is engagement with the audience as well.
Yeah.
And then, but this story is happening with the setting of the trade show. We just need a picture of the woman in this same place, right? So I think
Yeah.
this thought goes together where I would separate other things. Like this one was definitely separate. I saw these two dudes get this job, and I thought if they would hire them, they could hire me too. And I was sick of watching these guys, all the guys get the job. So I went and got the job. So we're revealing parts of the story in that part of the story. In this one, the setting is the trade show, and you're in it.
Got it.
So we need to keep the thought together, and we can tell the story like through that one slide, basically. Isn't this fun?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next, this is the decision. We always want to make a decision for our people.
Okay, so here I just have this picture. So I decided, and it's like this woman standing on a bunch of money, but in a glass.
Oh, cool. I love this picture. This is awesome. So you were trapped. You could make the money, but there was a lot more money out there kind of deal. That's a great picture. Very cool picture. That is great. Cool. I realize you're a woman. So that's like the ultimate glass ceiling type picture-y kind of picture, you know? And now I realized, absolutely expert, passionate about what I did, and I help other people like you're absolutely passionate about what they do. Is this where you helped someone else, or you helped a lady in the car or something like that?
That's the next.
Oh, no, that's the next one.
Yeah. So right here, again, I don't think you're going to like the picture that I picked. I just called it, and then I realized.
I kind of like that, actually, because it kind of plays off of the trade show theme where you've got like a name tag on, you know? But it's like your name tag was your name, and that you're actually this expert. You know what I'm saying? Like you could totally play off that theme. I dig it. Good pattern interrupt too. We've been using a lot of pictures, you know, and it says everything you need to say. Yeah, I like that actually, because we just got out of the trade show. You don't want to be in the trade show, you know. Yeah, you could even throw in you could take some creative liberties with your nostalgic past, and you could say right here, when I walked out of that trade show, I ripped my name tag off for the last time, and I decided I'm an expert. So it's like you're getting rid of your badge, or your, hi, I'm Nikki, welcome to my booth. You know what I'm saying? Like you could play off that as like, I decided to throw away my badges, rip the name tag off, and I wasn't going to be trapped in this trade show world anymore. I was going to have a new name tag, expert, because I am one. You know, like you could totally weave that in a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so then the next one is just a picture of Lisa, who I helped. It's actually a picture of her.
Awesome. We'll throw that in.
I can't remember what BOTITA standed for.
Because of that, I took action.
I would have never got that. It's like, I don't know what he means by this, but I'm just
you know how people go yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I actually was like, I need to, because that's what a story really is. Yada yada yada. You get to the end, right? But you gotta yada yada yada. So I was like, and I tried to do an acronym with yada, and I was like, that doesn't work. So I was like, well, can I make an acronym of something that sounds like yada? And I was like, bada 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 bada.
Okay.
And so I was like, and I came up with, because like what every story is, something happened before it, and because of that, you did something else. That's because of that that's how stories move forward. Because of that, I took the next action. Because of that, I took the next action. So that's my corny joke.
Bada.
I
love it.
Because of that, I took action. Boom. I started helping a friend named Lisa. Okay, so let's grab her picture. Hi, Lisa. Is that actually her?
Yeah, that's actually her.
What's she do now?
She is an uber successful real estate agent now.
Heck yeah.
She's crushing it.
I still wouldn't use any words. We'll just keep going with that one. Oh, you know what? There's an extra opportunity here. Do you have a picture of you at this conference? Yeah, I think we need a double slide here for this story.
I used to have pictures of me at this conference. I'd have to do some major searching for it.
Well, any picture of you speaking other than the CEO one you've already used would work. Like you just need a picture of you speaking here, I think, in front of people. So any photo would work. That conference would be cool if you had it, right? But you need just any picture of you speaking, but I don't want to use the same one we've already used. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. Although you could use that picture again, actually, because you didn't really tell what you were speaking at before, and they don't really know, so you don't have to say it. But you could just say, I spoke at the conference, and they might put in their own head that it's the same place, but you're not really saying that. But just I'm just going to grab this picture and stick it right here.
Okay.
Just for you know what I'm saying, just for a placeholder. There is something to say for closing loops, and that there's a picture. You're kind of implying it, but not really. Insert picture of you speaking at conference or on another stage.
Okay.
Yeah, that needs to be told in 2 slides. So that's a perfect example of the difference in this slide. This picture was happening within the setting. This picture was not. This was, you were in a car with Lisa and then you were on a stage. So it's like, I always think of my slides as the background set of a Broadway play. If the part of the story I'm telling is happening in that set, I need more than one picture on the slide. Okay. If it's a completely different place, location, setting, like whatever, I've got to give transition. I have to give something that jars the person out of the story place that I was just in. You know how like you go to a Broadway play and the sets will rotate?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. It's the same thing that's happening right now. Or like there'll be something happening and one guy will leave the stage and someone else will walk on, but it's the same set. That's kind of how I think about slides. They're just background drops, background settings, basically. And then bam. All right. Now this was Sales Maven Was Born is what we're going to go here. I like the podcast art here a lot.
So I did insert like a picture that was actually kind of in my first year of business where I had my first book, and
where is it at?
It's in your Badada too.
I love it. All right. I think we might do a multiple picture thing here too. Has your podcast art always looked the same?
We changed it once.
Be cool to use the old art.
Yeah, I do have the old art. I can grab it.
Let's see what that looks like. Because then people who are new that know your art now would be like, oh, that's what the old art looked like. This feels like a collage-y picture is what I'm thinking. Like something collage-y looking. Did you go out speaking and stuff? Oh, here's another picture of you speaking. I feel like there should be like a couple pictures on here. You know what I'm saying? Like it should almost be like collage-y, like with like bam, 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 like like the podcast art. Like I'll throw one on here. I don't know. This is your new podcast art, I think, though. I feel like it should be like I launched a podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it needs to be like a. Remember how you'd make a collage in school, and like just some memories of memory lane, like a. And do you have any funny? Let's see.
So I think that's the new art. Oh, here's the old art. Let's see.
Yeah. I was just throwing something in there for a placeholder. Like, do you have any good memories of that first year in business? Just a progression of you were doing more than one thing, and like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So sometime I'll find a third picture here too. Like, I saw you were a guest on someone's podcast. So like, I started being a guest on podcasts. I had my own podcast. I had to, you know what I'm saying? Kind of collage-y. You can make this what you will, but like just a kind of trip down memory lane kind of slide. You don't have to go into the details of what it is. It's just Sales Maven Was Born. First couple years was a struggle because I was all alone, but I started writing books and I started doing this and I was an expert and I knew women needed me to teach them sales. And then so I hired a coach would probably go on a different slide. Yeah, like we'll break this up. I knew I needed to help them succeed. So that's like I started the business. And then we'll add a slide to talk about the coach. That was Mary. What was your idea for this slide?
Because
I think right here we had decided this was just to introduce the concept of hiring a coach, and we didn't want to reveal like who she was, right?
I feel like I might have a picture of me and Mary.
Oh, that would be baller if you had that. If you have a picture of you and Mary, that'd be amazing.
I feel like it's like I'd have to find it in my Facebook feed maybe.
Yeah. And then I'm going to grab a picture of her, just throw them on here side by side. Again, you don't have to say that she is, you don't have to say her whole name. You know what I mean? A coach named Mary. You can say who it is too. It won't matter. But if you can find a picture of y'all actually together, that'd be amazing. What does she coach? Does she do? What does she do? What does she coach?
She's a business coach, but now she primarily focuses and coaches like people who have therapy practices.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I would say that saying her name would be powerful. Only coaches primarily therapy. But back then, that creates an exclusion from everybody who's not in a therapy business. Like, right? Like, because the danger of introducing your mentor is someone will reach out to your mentor, right? In the story.
Yeah.
But as long as you qualify it, like I always say, my mentor is Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income Podcast, and you can't get coached by him anymore. He's too big. So now they have to come through me, basically, at that point. Yours is like, she primarily teaches people who are in like own therapy businesses, but I got her to coach me in my business, you know, whatever. So that introduces the mentor. I spent about $3,000 to get that, and just too much of coaching. My business was laid. Hiring a coach $3K, and then making her $1.5 million in my business. Like that's a brag slide. You know what I'm saying? Of like this happened because it's all because I hired a coach. So now we've seeded that they need to hire the coach. All right. So we got that slide there. Bam. Once I had my coaching dialed in, your podcast journey goes here. I started getting asked to do guesting appearances. People would find my guest appearances. Oh yeah, this really wasn't Sales Maven though. We didn't launch the podcast back then, did we? You had not launched the podcast yet, had you?
No, I didn't launch the podcast till 2020.
Yeah. So forget that. Forget that. It's not collage. It's just bam. All right. So this one is when you were being a guest on other people's podcasts, right?
Yeah.
You know what?
I get a ton of art of me on other people's podcasts.
That's what you need to do. Like it becomes just a bunch of podcast arts, right? Right here.
Okay.
Like I put how many, like however, do a bunch, however many you can get on the screen, right? Like I would just put
on over 300. So
yeah. So what I would do, I'd make it look something like, let's see, like a bunch of podcast art. You need something. It needs to look something like this. I'm just going to grab this for now for a placeholder. Something like that, where you just fill the whole screen with podcast arts you've been on. Okay. And then I think a dramatic thing to do is I decided to start my own, right? During the pandemic, basically. This is where your podcast art is giant. Like that's all it is. Because it's like you were on all these podcasts, and it's like, bam! You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like all the little arts to the one that matters.
So that slide 18 with all the podcast art, should it just be should it be like the images where it's like me on the podcast, like it's got my picture, or should it just be
if you have them? If you have, the more of those, the better. You know, some people do that, and then you might, the more of those, the better, and so you have a big look and feel of just you everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
some people don't do that. Like we don't do that. We don't change them. Yeah. So you might not be able to have one for every square inch of the slide, but as many of them as possible, I would definitely do.
I mean, you've got like, what do you have right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 18. Like I could probably put 30 and not even have to stretch to get it.
There you go. Yeah. So use all your arts, and they'll all look different because they're framed a little different. However, those people made them, you know.
Yeah.
So like that would look really cool. Very, very cool. I'll put a note there to do that. Boom. Then you launch your thing. Then we're going to do a pandemic story here. All right. So this is the victory where we're going to talk about how your business did. Right.
Mm-hmm.
What was the pandemic anecdote you were going to tell? Like you need to tell some kind of like funny story about launching this during the pandemic and how, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. Like we were pandemic anecdote because you launched in 2020, right?
Yeah. I literally launched like the week after everything shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. So you need to talk about that. Go in a little bit about that. You know what I'm saying? This might also be a place where you could insert another slide before the victory thing. This might be another slide. It might be a good little tangent to really relate to. I mean, the point of this slide would be, if I can do what I'm doing, if I can make sales during the pandemic, you can too. You know what I'm saying? Like you probably landed your first client in the pandemic year, right? In 2020 for the new business.
Well, what do you mean for the new business?
Like, okay, that's not the new business. Like you had a business, it was going. And then when you launched the podcast, I'm trying to figure out okay, actually, that's not right. So what we'll do is delete this here. It's like, you got to talk about how it grew during the pandemic, basically, something like that.
So I think we talked about here, like the way that it grew is kind of at the end of 2019. I decided to take my whole business online and stop doing in-person live classes. And so what happened is it opened my business up to more clients around the world.
Like, what's your favorite pandemic memory with just you and your family?
Ultimately, my favorite memory from the pandemic was my husband and I used to go get takeout from this Mexican restaurant, and we would go sit in the mall parking lot.
Yeah, let's personalize this right here. Man, it would be awesome if y'all had a picture in the car, but y'all can even do that now. You should get in the car with your husband and take a picture, stick your arm out the window and take a picture of just you guys having a picture of you guys in the front seat or something, But this would be a good personal story from the pandemic to kind of add humanity, not just expertise. This is a good know, like, and trust slide. So even just a picture of you and your husband right here, I think would be really good. You know what I'm saying? If that's cool. That would be awesome. That just something personal here to just be because we're really business. You know what I'm saying? But then we're but during the pandemic, man, we used to love our favorite Mexican restaurant was closed. And we would go have a picnic in the parking lot and do that and blah, blah, blah. And then it's you know what I'm saying? Then it's that was just and it was awesome that we could even do that because my business was succeeding and selling and doing that stuff. Right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then normally what I do, so then, and that's what really makes me love my job because I get to help other people to have a life like that too. My business is going really well. That's kind of part of the success story. And then it opens the door for you to turn back and say, my business provides me a life like that with my family, blah, blah, blah. So then I get to help other people, right? Which will be your favorite testimonial slide right here. Okay. Which I think we're going to complement this. Yeah, right here. Let's see, hold on. Let me make sure I'm keeping my brain in order here. Then boom, this victory slide, things explode. But I think we'll go ahead and introduce the first testimonial here. It's almost like that story from the pandemic. I think you could even say here, the victory for you is I launched this business in 2020 and I practice what I preach. I do what I say. I used my exact sales techniques to grow this business when hundreds of other businesses went out of business, right? So it's we had victory while I was growing my thing. We were in the parking lot. It's it's just a good place to show a really down to earth version of victory, right? We've already talked about numbers and stuff back here a little bit in the beginning of the slide. So if you can tell that really good story here of, okay, launched the podcast, right? And my business exploded. And then, so you talk a little bit about the growth right here of how it grew. And then you come down here to a pandemic anecdote of it was awesome during the pandemic. We got to do this, got to spend a lot of time together. It was, I grew my business and so many other people had failed. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And this becomes the bridge into the bridge, basically. It's we're starting now to unwind. Okay, I've convinced you that I'm successful and I've done all these things and all that stuff. Now we've got to start helping people. This is the point where there's a point in the story where people get sick of your story.
Yeah.
The story is the most important thing to get them to listen to you, because you got to build know, like, and trust. You got to be down to earth. You got to be relatable. You got to be successful. You got to do all those things. But now it's like, okay, perfect. I'm like you, and I'm not like you. So let's start helping people right now. So after this picture, let me throw a placeholder in there. And I wish you all had a picture of you in the picnic. Do you have a picture like that? Do you think you did a Facebook snap or something of like, hey, we're having a dinner during the pandemic?
I doubt it. You know, the other thing that we did that year is that we moved. Like, we moved from Washington back to Idaho, but I don't really want to like open that door either.
Yeah. That's getting too far away. This makes sense. It's like my business was going really well, and one day I just got off a client meeting and we decided to go have a picnic at our favorite parking lot. Right? So it's like, you can even use stock photo here. Picture of people eating in a car. You know what I'm saying? Just grab a picture like this to kind of tell the story. It don't even have to be you guys. Right? So now it's like, I'm going to move some of this. Okay, cool. All right. So this is like, we did this, and the blah, blah, blah. I did a bunch of sales in the morning, and then we went to our favorite restaurants, the pandemic, blah, blah. And you kind of like, again, take some creative liberty and say, I realized, man, like, sales is the key. Sales is what gives you money through a pandemic. Sales is what lets you go eat lunch and at the restaurant you want to eat at, and blah, blah, blah. You can kind of tie it back, and then you go back to mission and you say, well, this is also like why it was my mission to help other people. People like favorite testimonial. Okay. So this is our favorite testimonial. Who is she?
Yeah, that's Lori. I don't have a picture of Lori.
Okay. So I'll find just a picture. All right. To remind you that it's Lori, I'm going to use Lori from Shark Tank. All right. So we know this is a picture of Lori. There's Lori from Shark Tank. Okay. That's our placeholder reminder to remember that it's Lori.
You think I actually need a picture of Lori, like, because I haven't been in touch with her recently, and I'm kind of like,
you want to just find a stock photo. Like, images don't have to be exactly matched up. Just, was she blonde? Was she brunette? Was she red? So you have to have a picture, I think, to visually like say this is a real human. Like, it doesn't even need to be her. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you just need a picture. You know how, like, on the bottom of commercials, it'll say actors have been chosen to represent these testimonials, but it's still like the dude in a doctor's stethoscope reading the testimonial, basically.
Yeah.
Same thing, same exact thing. And then let's go to the second testimonial bridge, which is going to get us out of the thing. All right, so now this is the least likely. So that's the favorite testimonial, and then least likely. The least likely is because now if this person can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Yeah. So this one, there's a picture. It's called Second Testimonial Bridge.
Do you have a picture of this person?
I can get one, but this is their story where they packed up and like.
Yeah, I would use her picture. You know what I'm saying? I would definitely use her picture. Now, let me show you something. If you look at the screen, I want to show you how I do this. I do this one differently than the other testimonial slides. I'm using this slide to transition out of the story and into teaching mode. Okay. So what I do on this one, I really want to drive home the point that, like, if this person can do it, anyone can do it. Okay. So, like, look over here. So I go back into bullets here, like, for this kind of slide presentation, and I can copy and paste these into here if you want to see how I do this. Actually, I will, just so you've got them.
Okay.
These other testimonials are just, here's a testimonial. This one is proof that this works for anyone. So I want to slow this one down, right? So I use Kareem Marato. She's an immigrant from Guatemala who came to America with nothing but a suitcase in her hand and couldn't speak English. And a few years later, she joined Flip Lifestyle and launched an online business that now does 6 figures. Okay. If you are anyone short of can't speak English as an immigrant, you have no excuses, period. Right. So that's kind of what we're doing here. So I'm going to unpack this story on screen. Like, I'm like, she was an immigrant from Guatemala. She learned how to speak English at Kmart. People told her that she couldn't start her own business and she should never do it. But then she found Flip Lifestyle and it worked. I'm going to teach them this story so they do not forget it, right? Because when I start pitching here in a minute, everyone freaks out about objections. Like, we're always trying to remove objections during the presentation and all that good stuff. I'm not trying to do that. My philosophy is, 1, know, like, and trust. 2, prove that it works for other people, right? And then give them examples that are so beyond, it's almost like in a horror movie, the worst thing you can do is show the monster, right? The monster off screen is way scarier than on screen, because now I'm filling in the gaps, right? Like, of what the monster looks like. So the monster looks to me like the scariest thing ever. And it looks like to you the scariest thing ever, because we're imagining the monster, right? Then the monster comes out and you're like, oh, that's not what I thought it looked like, right? Whatever. This is kind of the opposite of that, or the same thing. I just want to present a testimonial that's so unlikely. I don't care what your objections are. If it worked for that person, it worked. If it worked for them, it'll work for me. That's what we're really trying to get them to come to the conclusion through the story. Now I don't have to meet all the objections. I can actually save objections for Q&A, right? We can handle objections during Q&A. We can rapid fire them. We're going to plant 30 questions if we want to. That'll handle, like, well, purchasing objection, price objection, this object. We can frame those in the Q&A and deal with them. It doesn't go in the presentation. So that's what you're trying to do with this lady, is flesh it out a little bit where it's enough to be like, this is crazy. If, she was doing this in a car, whatever. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as an immigrant from Guatemala who can't speak English. That just happens to luckily be mine, right? But like, I lucked out with Kareem Marato, basically.
I know. I feel like I don't have one that's that dramatic. It's so good.
But it can be presented that way, right? Like, tell me this story again real quick.
So Mindy's was, the pandemic hit and her husband, they sold everything, packed up their meager belongings into a trailer, put their dog in the car, and decided to essentially move across. They didn't really know where they were going. They just started driving and ended up.
Why did they sell everything?
Because of the pandemic, and they were like, things have got to change. Also, I think it was also political too, right? They were like, sure. COVID. Well, it had a lot to do with COVID, because who she works with are practitioners. Like, her clients are like massage therapists, and they couldn't work.
All right.
During this time.
This is all right. Anyone with a job is going to buy this product. That's how we have to think. So you're going to say, so this is a perfect little callback to where you just told that pandemic story. Remember, so here's what we're framing. Think of zoom out. Think of the big picture. Don't think of the Bible verse. Think of the whole Bible. That's what we're thinking of right now, right? So here's what's happening. You just told the story in the pandemic, the hook before of, oh man, my business grew during the pandemic. Now watch this. Now when we get to her, then we got a little gap in between. There was another person you helped, but now we're going to talk about her. This is the least likely testimonial. But the pandemic wasn't great for my client so-and-so. She dealt with nurses and massage therapists. There were no nurses and massage therapists. She couldn't talk to them, massage therapists, everybody, or whatever it is. They went out. They lost everything. They had to sell everything. They had to get in a car, and they were just driving into, they didn't even know where they were going to live. So now, if you're not homeless in a car with a dog to feed, you cannot not buy this, right? It's just how you say it, basically. And so that they did this, they did that, they did this, they did that, bam, hired me, bumped revenue, fixed the thing, whatever the result is, right? You're just framing where they were, and then where they were going and how they got there. Now, so basically, guys, my stuff works for everybody. If you're anything above basically homeless in a car looking for a new place to plant your tent, you can do this because they did it, right? That's the story you're telling. So it is the least likely story. Is just, it doesn't have to be war zone, but this is crazy. Like, they're in a car, don't know where to go, don't know what their future is. Let them settle down and then hire you. That's fine. but you can totally present their stat, their where they were was bad, right? I mean, running from the pandemic in a car with a dog to feed, like they had some money. I'm not saying they didn't have anything. We're not saying they were like
Yeah, no,
homeless.
they definitely have money, but
That's fine. But that again, we don't even have to say that. This is what
she
happened.
thought her business was dead. She was like, my business is dead.
Yes.
And then she decided, can it come back? I'm going to
All
work.
clients gone up. I thought my business was dead. Can it come back? I hired Nikki. It did. That's it. That's the whole bullet point for this slide, right? So I actually like the dog slide. It's a little too happy though. You know what I'm saying? It's like a we want to paint a dire picture of something, you know, like truck pulling a U-Haul. We want something that represents all my stuff behind me in a Utah kind of thing. Something like this. Just something for right now that'll represent like moving away. It would be good to have a picture of her too on here, you know? So it's like this is a car with a trailer, they're loading it up to move away. Yeah. Something like that. All right, perfect. That's a great testimonial. And unpack it. Like I'm gonna leave this here. Just unpack that story. You know what I'm saying? With like her, you know, like drop her picture on there, drop the movie, the dog, whatever. Try to unpack it a little bit. Don't just let this slide be static. You really want to drive this one home because you want to say at the end, guys, if she can do this with my program, anyone can. Absolutely anyone can whatsoever. Okay. So I actually have the slide with the right training, anybody can do it. If Kareem can do it, anybody can do it. Okay. All right, cool. Come back up here. Second testimonial bridge is there. All right. Now we're going to remind them. That's what this slide actually is right here. Anyone can do this. And then we're going to call back to the permission to sell slide. We're actually going to just bring it back. Okay. So we're going to call back here. Now we've got the permission to slide, or permission to sell slide. Okay. All right. We got the permission to sell. We're going to just bring that slide back. Say, do you remember, listen, what I told you earlier? Do you remember that? Do you remember when I told you that? I told you I was going to show you the path, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Well, I've got something for sale. Okay. Now, here's what I've been doing in my webinars. I'm going to go ahead and pitch now. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pitch now. But I'm going to tell them here in a minute how any woman can sell confidently and close any deal on a sales call. All right. You just told your story and I say here in just a minute, I'm going to give you 3 tips to do what all these ladies have done on a sales call. All right. So I'm transitioning kind of through the pitch into teaching. Okay. You can choose to teach something here if you want to. All right. So there's kind of like a choose your own adventure. I prefer to actually go ahead and pitch right now so that people can sign up while I'm teaching. But if you want to, you can say here, I'm going to teach you 3 tips to do this and then pitch. So you can give them some value, right? Like, so it's not just story. It's up to you. It's how you feel like it. I prefer to go ahead and pitch because I got the emotions as high as possible. So I'll say something like, okay, guys, I am about to teach you 3 tips on how to choose your idea for an online business. And I'm going to do a Q&A. But first, you know, you've seen my story. You've seen all these other stories. You know I can help you. And you know I'm going to sell you something. So would it be okay if I just went ahead and showed it to you? Right? I want to go ahead and pitch this right now. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and pitch it. I do the pitch first because I like to have that 30 minutes to Q&A when people are hanging out. Like I have almost no drop off at this point in the webinar because the story is at its peak and I can get the pitch. This is where the most people are going to be able to see the pitch is about 30 to 45 minutes in because everybody's on that was late. Everybody's engrossed in the story and they're there. The longer I go, I'm going to start losing people at the 30 to 45 minute mark, right? So I'm pitching. I want the most people to see the pitch and anyone who leaves because of the pitch before the value wasn't going to buy anyway. Right? So that's why I pitch right here. So I go straight into the standard stack slide. And so here's our value stack. Okay. Now you've done a value stack before, right? Where it's like, this is worth this is worth that, this is worth this, but I'm not going to charge you that. Have you done all that before?
I mean, probably not like not as in depth.
Yeah. Okay,
It's
so let's
not
do that.
yeah, it hasn't really been my forte to like sell like that.
Okay. Okay, well, I recommend a value stack.
Yeah.
If,
I'm
if you,
totally down to do it.
okay, so what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to copy just my stack slides in. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm just going to stack my slides into here. Let me go down here to the reveal. I'm just going to copy and paste mine in.
Okay.
That way you can just kind of mimic what I'm doing here. So what I do is I remind them there's more. I remind them I told them I was going to sell them something. I remind them more is to come, right? We're still going to teach you something. And like I got an idea brainstorm and a Q&A coming. So we're not done. We're not even close to done, guys. You know, we're whatever. Then I reveal my product. Okay. And I start doing the stack slide. So I'll reveal. So it's like this product, the thing we sold last month was called Flip Lifestyle Forever. This is basically our lifetime deal. Okay. So it was a $3,000 product. Like, so I got lifetime. So I start with my content always, right? People come for the content. That's what they think they're there for, right? So I start with the content, boom, boom, boom. So whatever the content is. Then I go to the community, boom, boom, boom. And I'm assigning values to all these things. In between, I like to show a testimonial for each feature. So if I'm going to do content, this has no relevance to your thing. We got to go through your bullets here in a second and talk about how to stack it. But I'm basically revealing feature 1, and then I'm revealing the price. Then I'm revealing feature 2, and then I'm revealing the price, right? Then I'm revealing feature 3, and I'm revealing the value, not the price necessarily, right?
Yeah.
The value, all right? And then I'm going to reveal the total value, okay? And then I do the double price drop technique. That's what I like to do. I like to bring it down twice, okay? So I was going to do it for this. That'd be a great deal by itself. But you know what? You're here. You're live. So I'm going to do this. So if we're going to sell this thing for $3K, this first price might be $4K off of $12K, right? Or whatever you end up doing.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do it one more time. And that's where, then that one's going to have urgency. That one's like, you got to do it today. And this is something I've started doing lately. I've been playing around with 2-day, 3-day, and 1-day windows. I'm doing all my deals on webinars that same night at midnight from now on. And then replays will have access to it as well. I'm telling them it's that day. Like, it's midnight, it's tonight. If you don't get in, you know, that's where it goes. So and what I can do is, the reason I do a double price drop that's pretty close. See, if by tonight, if you join, it's $24.97 on this deal. When I do the replay, it would be $29.97. So I've still got a great deal. It's in there. Like, I'll say, like, this will be the replay price, but tonight it's this one. That's it. And that way I'm closing the cart as fast as possible. It's either within 24 hours or today. You have to do it today. Crapper, get off the pot. Let's go. Because we've been analyzing this now for years. And like, even this year, especially, 90% of sales come on the last day. It doesn't matter if it's 4 days away, 3 days away, or 2 days away. So when I'm doing webinars from now on for anything, I'm like, it's today. Especially for this product, because you're like, I'm ready to get started with my next cohort. I'm ready to get to work with you right now. I want to start next week with you. I'm not messing around. We can get you on the books, on the schedule for the calls, whatever it is you're doing. Like, the more urgency, the better, and the faster you can send out the 3 hours left email, the more sales are going to come in. And you can always follow up on replays with a little bit different price, you know? So if you want to do that, but I'm going mad urgency when I'm doing this stack. As soon as I reveal the price, I'm like, this is midnight tonight. Let's do this. So you can get it now.
Your replay people are seeing that they could have gotten it for $24.97 had they been on the live call.
Yes, they are. They are.
Are you
for
getting
sure.
any pushback from that?
No, it should have been, when they write in, we're like, no, here's what happens. So here's what happens. If someone, I like to reward action takers. Now, I like to reward live people the most, right? Because they showed up live. So they get the fastest access to the deal. If someone pushes back or writes in, I will say this. Oh, yeah, that's a live event special only, man. I really want to encourage you to always be in my future live events on the day we do them. And I'm really impressed that you wrote me an email to ask about this. That's taking action too. So this time I'm going to give you the $500 off, right?
I love
So
that. Okay.
you see what I'm saying? Like if they write me in, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to give you the same deal. I just want the urgency of this is it. This is the best price, period.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
we need that now. Yeah. We don't want to waste the emotion of the story, you know?
Are you doing payment plans or just flat? That's the price pay.
I would. I'm not against it, but I think it's too hard to pitch both. If I'm going to do a payment plan, it's going to come a few days later. I'm going to email everyone that came to the webinar and say, hey, I know you couldn't join, but here's a payment plan. But if you pay all the payments, it's more, basically,
Yeah.
right? You're just self-financing is all you're doing there, you know? So here's what I do next. Let me close this out. All right. I call this Q&A 1, where I'm like, does anyone have any questions about the product? I'm about to start teaching again. So this is not every question you've ever had about sales. It's, does anyone have any questions about the product? And if anyone has questions, I'll answer a couple questions about, they may have some like, what does this mean? How many calls do I get? Like whatever it is. But I'm just going to do a quick Q&A, and then I'm going to come here and I'm going to teach, right? So, this is just your wheelhouse. It's like, 3 tips for sales, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do Q&A 2. I'm going to come back and do Q&A 2, but this is where I'm planting lots of questions about the product, right? Anyone can ask me anything, but
Yeah.
I'm going to get rid of my 10 biggest objections for purchasing. Like, why is it $3,000? Well, it used to be $6,000, but now it's 3 because I really want to help you. I'm planting some questions here to kill objections at this point for that. So this is your teaching moment. You only want to, this is short though, 15, 20 minutes tops, right? It's like you're wanting to drop a couple value bombs that blow their mind, and then you're done. You can teach whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It does need to be related to the title though. Like, so I think yours is 3 tips on your next sales call, basically, right?
Yeah.
But not enough to satiate them though. You know what I mean? It's just enough to be like, wow, that would be a good tip to do. My 3 best tips for your next sales call. So again, the only variation I give people is I totally see the value of why you would want to teach before the pitch. And then you would only do 1 Q&A. So you can go from the least likely testimonial straight in, like, now let me show you what I teach people, and then you could teach 3 things. I think it's one of those things you play with, you figure out your style. I'm more aggressive. I'm just very aggressive, and I know I'm selling something. You know it. Let's just get it out of the way, right? However, in the last 2 webinars, I've flipped them, and it was about the same, sales. So it was like I taught once and then pitched, and then I pitched once and then taught. About the same. I don't see a big difference. I think it's more like your flow. Some people are very uncomfortable coming right out of the story, and they haven't delivered value to pitch. I'm more like, I can keep you on the hook because the value's coming, so that you'll listen to the pitch. I don't want to pitch at the end and then you just log off because you just got 3 good tips, right? I want to go ahead and like right then and there,
Yeah, I want to test it and see, and maybe try it both ways and see which one feels better to me.
All right. So the next steps are, now we've got the baseline. You can totally add slides if you want, like to make the story richer.
Yeah.
Go through this and create it, and then we just got to do it. And then what we'll do is when you do it once, we'll come back on here and you'll record it, and I will literally just sit and we'll watch the whole thing, and we'll talk about what to do better and refine it.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.